I'm not great at telling stories, and I'm not trying to make this sound scarier than it was. I worked the night shift at a local 7-Eleven for about 8 months when I was 24. This happened during the last 2 weeks before I quit. I've told parts of it to friends, but this is the first time I'm laying it out start to finish. The store was off a 2-lane road that cut through a mostly residential area. Not sketchy, not nice. Just houses, a tire shop, a closed dentist office, and us. We were technically 24 hours, but between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. it was mostly empty. Drunk people on weekends, construction guys grabbing coffee at dawn, that kind of thing. I worked alone from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. That was the shift nobody wanted. I took it because it paid a little more and because I already slept weird hours. Plus, I could do homework behind the counter and nobody cared as long as the place didn't burn down. There's a rhythm to those shifts. You clean the coffee machines at midnight. You restock the coolers around 1:30. You pretend to mop at 3 even though it's pointless. You watch the same ads play on the screen above the register. You get used to the hum of the refrigerators. You get used to being tired in a very specific way. Most nights, nothing happened. That's important. 99% of the job was boredom and bad coffee. When people say night shift horror, they usually mean one weird customer who smells like something died in their jacket. This wasn't that. The first thing that felt off wasn't even a person. It was the automatic door. Around 2:17 a.m., I remember because I checked the time on the register, the door slid open like someone had walked up to it. I looked up, ready to do the whole, "Hey, how's it going?" thing, but nobody was there. The sidewalk outside was empty. No car pulling in, no headlights. The door stayed open for a few seconds, then closed. That happens sometimes. Bugs, motion sensors being dumb, whatever. I shrugged it off and went back to counting cigarette cartons. Then it happened again at 2:24. Same thing. Door opens, nobody there. I remember thinking, okay, that's annoying. I made a mental note to tell the manager. That was it. No fear, just mild irritation. At 2:41, it happened a third time. This time, I actually walked over and looked outside. I even stepped just past the threshold because the AC was blasting and I wanted to feel something else for a second. The parking lot was empty. No cars, no people, just the buzzing streetlight and the dark road. I told myself the sensor was probably catching the moths. There were always moths, big ones. The door didn't open again that night. I forgot about it by morning. A few nights later, Wednesday, I think, a guy came in around 1:50 a.m. He wasn't memorable at first. That's kind of the point. Average height, hoodie, jeans, maybe late 20s, early 30s. He grabbed a bottled water and stood at the counter while I rang it up. He paid in cash, exact change. Didn't say anything. When I handed him the receipt, he didn't take it right away. He just looked at me. Not in a creepy way, more like he was thinking about something else. After a second, he said, "Long night?" I did the polite half smile and said, "Yeah, always is." He nodded, took the receipt, and left. Totally normal interaction. If that was the whole story, I wouldn't be writing this. He came back the next night. Same time, 1:52 a.m. I know because I checked. Same hoodie, same bottled water. This time when I rang him up, he said, "You're here every night, right?" I laughed a little and said, "Pretty much." He nodded again, didn't say anything else, took his water and left. I remember feeling slightly annoyed, like, why are you making small talk at 2 in the morning? But that was it. He came back the next night, and the night after that. always between 1:45 and 2 a.m., always bought a bottled water, always paid cash. Sometimes he'd say something small, "Quiet tonight," or "They keep you busy?" Stuff you could say to literally anyone. But there was something about the timing. It was too consistent. People are creatures of habit, sure, but this felt precise. I told myself I was overthinking it. When you work nights, your brain looks for patterns because there's nothing else to do. The door thing started again that same week. Always after he left. He'd walk out, the door would close, I'd go back to whatever I was doing. Then a few minutes later, the door would open on its own. Sometimes once, sometimes twice. I checked the sensor. I waved my hand in front of it. I tried to break it, honestly, just to see if I could make it happen on purpose. I couldn't. I told my manager. He said he'd put in a maintenance request. Nothing happened. The first time it felt personal was when he used my name. I wear a name tag. That's not weird, I know that. But when he came in that night, 1:48 a.m., and said, "Hey, Alex," it still made my stomach drop a little. I smiled and said, "Hey." He didn't buy water that time. He bought gum. He stood there while I rang it up and said, "You ever think about switching shifts?" I laughed because that's what you do when you don't want to answer something. "All the time," I said. He nodded. "Yeah, nights mess with you." Then he left. The door didn't open after he left that night. It opened while he was still standing there. He was halfway to his car when the door slid open behind him. He stopped, turned around, looked at it. Then he looked back at me. He smiled, just a little, like he thought it was funny. He didn't come back inside. He just stood there for a second, then kept walking. The door stayed open longer than usual. I had to walk over and pull it shut manually. I didn't sleep much that day. I started paying attention to things I hadn't before, like how the streetlight outside flickered at irregular intervals, how the security camera over aisle 3 had a slight delay, how the clock above the hot dog roller was 5 minutes fast. I started locking the bathroom earlier than I was supposed to. I started standing closer to the back room when he was in the store. I told myself I was being paranoid. I didn't tell anyone else. How do you explain a guy buys water too consistently without sounding stupid? The night everything broke was a Monday, 1:43 a.m. He came in and didn't grab anything. He walked straight to the counter and leaned on it like we were old friends. He said, "You get off at 6, right?" I didn't answer right away. I finally said, "Depends." He nodded. "Yeah, depends." He glanced at the door, then back at me. "You live close?" I shook my head. "Not really." "Bus?" "Sometimes." He smiled again, the same small smile. "Be careful." Then he turned and walked out. The door didn't open on its own after that. The lights did. They flickered, just once, enough that the store went dim and came back. I stood there for a full minute without moving. At 2:11 a.m., the back door alarm went off. That door is supposed to stay locked. Only employees have the code. I didn't go back there. I called the non-emergency number like we were trained to do. By the time an officer showed up, the alarm had stopped. The door was locked. Nothing looked disturbed. The officer asked if I'd had any problems lately. I said no. I don't know why I lied. Habit, I guess. The next morning when I got home, there was a bottled water on my front step. Same brand he always bought. I stood there staring at it for a long time. I told myself someone else could have left it. Kids mess around, people are weird. I threw it away without touching it. I didn't go back to work after that. I told my manager I was sick. Then I told him I was moving. Then I stopped answering his calls. The police never followed up. Maintenance finally fixed the door sensor, apparently. The guy never got identified. There was nothing to identify. I still pass that 7-Eleven sometimes, during the day, with other people around. Nothing looks wrong. But I don't work nights anymore. And I don't drink bottled water. And sometimes, when a door opens behind me and no one's there, I don't laugh it off the way I used to. That's it. That's the whole thing. I know it doesn't sound like much. I wish it felt like nothing.